right, good morning, everybody. Sorry about my inability to figure this out ever. My bad. Anyways, good morning. Thank you all for being here. We have a really special guest today that I'm super excited about sharing with you all. So we'll just go through a really couple of quick things and then Kim is going to get started. She has to go in 45 minutes, so I want to make sure we all have as much time with her as possible. So welcome everybody to our equity work group meeting. I know Nick had asked everybody to drop your name and affiliation and your pronouns in the chat if you wouldn't mind, so that we have it for our notes. And I will really quickly go through our land, territory, and water acknowledgement. Nearly 200 tribal nations are located within the modern borders of California, more than any other state in the United States. In San Diego, the Kumeyaay people have been a part of this land for millennia. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As an employee of the city of San Diego, we acknowledge this legacy. We promote this balance and harmony. We find inspiration from this land, the land of the Kumeyaay. And then there's a link there if you want to see more information about it. So I'm so excited to introduce Kim Desmond, who is the Chief of Race and Equity at the City of San Diego, Department of Race and Equity. She's going to do an amazing presentation for us about how her team has been operationalizing equity here at the City of San Diego. And I have just like a couple quick slides about how we're doing it here in the Stormwater Department. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to Kim. And then I'll just run the presentation if that's okay, Kim, unless you want to just let me know. Okay, great. Thank you.
And that is perfect. Thank you for running the slides. You can click slideshow and put start from current slide. Yep, thanks. From current slide. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Nice to meet you all. I see some of you, I totally understand the no cameras on, but if you would like to, I would love to see some folks. Hello, come on, hello. So I'm not talking to myself, not talking to myself. That's what I'm talking about. So y'all, show yourself, water people. Kim Desmond here, Chief Race and Equity Officer, and I have the honor of working directly for Mayor Gloria, overseeing the Department of Race and Equity. I do want to shout out my program manager here, Grace. Grace, raise your hand. Green hand, yellow hand, there's other hands too on the Zoom. So Grace is joining me because Grace does some of the work with our learning and development team, and also is the equity coach for this department. So we're going to get more into that. So feel free, Grace, if the universe hits you, feel free to jump in as I'm going through this. So when asked to support Vicki and Stormwater, and Peter, I see you in there as well, wanted to really just say that, water is life, right? Water is life. I want to convince you all. And so I was honored to be a part of this conversation around what does it mean to talk about equity and the connection to water quality and all the things that you're doing, not only regulatory, but the way in which the Senate bill talks about ways to make sure folks are informed about what's happening, to the way that you fulfill the regulations and the way they understand what is needed. And so with that, I wanted to start out with why our office is important. This particular office, actually, I always have to acknowledge who actually is a current supervisor, but past Council President Pro Tem Monica Montgomery Stepp, for her role in formulating and creating the Department of Race and Equity. So she fought to get the office not only created, but also to get it funded, and that included an actual ordinance. And so outside of the mayor being in position, this department is an ordinance, meaning that there are certain things that it requires, and you're going to hear more about that. And so that's an important part of the work, where a lot of DEI work at this point in time, folks are challenging why this work is necessary. And so this ordinance kind of solidifies the need in actual muni code. And so this part of the code is, it gives us staying power outside of Mayor Gloria. Mayor Gloria most certainly is a champion for the work. And I was honored to be the inaugural Chief Equity Officer that is able to build out this work with folks like Grace and our entire team. And so that's the background and history. Going on to the next slide so we can get into the substance of this presentation is just a quick history part of that. And so we have not been in existence long. And so Grace will tell you, Grace was recently hired, I want to say in June. And it feels like 10 years at this point in time because we're doing so many things. And so just know that like I didn't get hired or appointed by the mayor until I want to say it was July of 2021, but I actually didn't start until like September of that year. And then we've been just all gas, no brakes since then, like launching budget equity. We have equity in the budgeting process. We have integrated that in terms of every department who creates a budget adjustment has to go through an equity lens to critique those decisions. And those decisions are vetted through our chief operation officer, and we receive and let the mayor know, what are some equity implications to budget adjustments across the city. And that's for every department. So actually we changed our public budgeting system to account for an equity lens in the budgeting process. So it's a whole elaborate thing. Last but not least, in hiring Grace and our other program managers and program coordinators, we are in the process of launching our equity-centered model. And so the question that I always get is, what is equity and how do you operationalize it? So I'll go to the next slide to kind of give you all some context about that. So that's our story, but the important thing, if we pull the shades back, is to say, in the city of San Diego, we actually have a model. And so this work, when you're trying to move, we have 12,800 city employees in 30 departments. We got to make sure that everyone has an equity mindset. And so this model actually is comprised of 4 domains. And to achieve our mission across all the departments, we want everyone to be on the same page. One of the domains that we look at is strategic partnerships and planning. Those partnerships include working with our city departments, nonprofits, or businesses to make sure we're moving our equity mission forward. So the outer ring is our domains. And one of those also is data-driven practices. If you don't hear anything from me today, equity is about data. And so sometimes folks get caught up with the word equity. Equity is an outcome. So when folks tell me they're doing equity work, I usually say, what kind of data are you using to guide and move different outcomes? The other part about that is I'll stop here and let Grace give a quick plug on our learning and development. Grace, I'll throw it to you to see what you want to share with learning and development.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kim. Hi, everyone. I am Grace Fagunu, and I have the pleasure of leading a lot of our learning and development offerings, many of which will be rolling out this year with city employees. And we do in-person, one-day trainings. We have online, asynchronous opportunities for learning. We have hybrids, so ways in which we can bring folks together after they've experienced in-person training to come back and apply their equity lens in a virtual setting to a case study. And of course, cohort model will be building out several learning opportunities that also create cohorts of staff to really learn and then implement some equity innovations throughout their work in the city. So excited to be part of the team and really building out our offerings for learning and development. So starting off this year and then more to come as we continue to grow and develop the curriculum for the different trainings we'll offer.
And the last domain of our work is community engagement, and that's really the robust part of our social equity and investment portfolio. So we actually have some funds that we give out to organizations to foster inclusive engagement. We know that we can't do this work alone. And so we actually fund organizations to support us in addressing very complex disparities. And then I'll end with this, is that as you hear Grace talk about the learning and development piece, the center of our work in the ordinance is to dismantle systemic racism. And so we're very clear about our role is to dismantle systemic racism, to in learning and development, let folks know what that really means. And then to say that systemic racism is not about being exclusive. I like to say racial equity, gender equity, the outcomes that you eliminate with systemic racism actually benefits the totality of humanity. And so it's not about leaving folks out. It's about looking at every indicator in this in life where you have a severe racial disparity. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the storm that we are encountering here in San Diego. And so just to acknowledge the fact that the flooding impacted historically redlined neighborhoods, it tells you a lot about those areas that were deemed hazardous and high floodplains. And that's why we have a large percentage of our Black and Latin folks who are impacted by the flood. And so those particular homes, being built on in that area was not a coincidence. It was a result of historic systemic redlining, which is why we focus on systemic racism, because these are chasms in our society. And so just putting these things in a space to say that equity work is, there's a lot of folks who question it, but we are moving forward to make sure that we know that it's needed. So this is our model, to make sure that we are on the same page with all of our departments, and being positioned in the mayor's office allows us to continually do that on a very proactive basis. So going to the next slide, the question that we get is, what does it mean for us to, and as you keep clicking through, the fun little objects will show up, is that we want to make sure that as we are addressing challenges, we like to call those equity opportunities. In this work of doing anti-racism work, I try to remain a level of optimism because it's really, really hard work. Like thinking about the storm, for example, you don't fix something like that overnight, right? And so we call those opportunities. So we try to turn challenges into opportunities. And with the opportunities, we know that before we can address and fix any issue or challenge in our city, it starts with managing our talent. Equity work is both internal and external. And we got to make sure that we are working with our employees. When I say things like the folks who are out there currently 16 hours picking up the trash, fixing the stormwater, we got to make sure that we're taking care of our candidates and our employees to make sure that they are taken care of in terms of like the retention and turnover, because it's hard work out there, right? The other part about that is the programs that we operate. We want to make sure the programs like, our trash and recycling collection, our park and recreation, and our library services, those programs are equitable and inclusive. We want to make sure that we are clear about ways in which how you allocate budget decisions to fix things. Historically, if you don't have a process in place, there are places that have been historically disinvested in, which may create more of a chasm in the disparity or inequity. So we're doing a lot of work with creating prioritization conversations around getting to folks who have not had the level of service they needed in the past. And so we see that again playing out with the storm in terms of like what's funded for our flooding channels, right? So these are all things that are playing out in like lifetime history in terms of like the amount of allocation for those areas in the flooded areas. And then last but not least, operations. And so looking at like how we operate our social equity cannabis program, our business program, we do a lot of work with climate and environmental justice. Our department actually works with our sustainability department, and we have a climate equity fund that actually funds complex disparities to address climate inequities throughout the city. So with that, as we go on to the next slide, I really want to just unpack real quick some key terms. And Grace will tell you this, we always get questions around what is equity, what is equality, and what is an equity lens. The easiest way to say this is to say, doing equity work means you are clear about racial disparities, which connects to understanding systemic racism. And so I like to say that if folks are uncomfortable, part of Grace's job is a hard job in that people get anxious when they hear the word racism. They think about the historic things that were very egregious, where folks are like, I'm not racist. And we're like, okay, we're not saying interpersonal racism. There are different types of racism. We talk about the systemic context for a systemic disinvestment that connects to historic redlining, where it was a set of policies that has informed racialized outcomes. And so with that, with this particular definitions, we have our terms for the city, where I tell folks that to get to equity work, you have to start with equality. And water quality is a prime example. Turns out we all need water to live, right? We all need water to live. And so with that, what is the equal standard? It means we all need the same thing, regardless of who you are, we need the same thing. Equity then occurs when there's a gap in what you're receiving. And so equity is about an outcome where you're able to address any gap to make sure that folks who are not receiving said resource have the opportunity to thrive and succeed. So I like to say that you have to go through equality to get to equity. And so the way that our model works is that we set an equal standard for all of our services, and then we say, who is that not true for? So for the example, with the the funding in stormwater and all the things, you may say that there are certain areas that are in floodplains. Not all areas, but some areas. So that's an example, right? And so you have to go through equality to get to equity. So you have to say, what is the standard for everyone? And then you say, who is that not true for? Turns out in San Diego, this is all over the place in terms of there is not equitable outcomes in, giving the example, our Parks and Rec system. We had a Parks and Rec audit 2 years ago that showed that our Parks and Rec locations that are in neighborhoods where large percentage of African American Latino folks live, where they are not receiving the same level of program offerings. So our team comes in and we say, why is that so? Why has there been disinvestment in programs in District 4, 8, and 9? And how do you resolve that? And so these are things that have been a historic disinvestment, which is why equity work is needed. And then that goes to why we use an equity lens. This is always one of the most surprising things to folks when they hear about the equity lens. Folks always say to our team, we're using an equity lens. And I'm like, well, what is that lens? I myself was on a quest around saying, what is this lens that I'm talking about? Is it a literal lens? An equity lens is just a set of questions. Historically, equity lens questions are used as a way to mitigate your biases. It's a way to slow down your thinking. We make decisions and budget investments without thinking about the unintentional impact and burden to distinct communities, demographics, and locations. And so an equity lens is used as a process to help you critically think about how you're delivering your policies and programs and budget decisions to achieve the outcomes. There is no scientific method around the number of questions that you ask. So our team, we actually use a set of questions based on some of the seminal equity work across the country that kind of guides us there. So if anyone is to ask you, if you're using an equity lens, it's just a set of questions. And so the next slide actually goes and shows you the kind of questions that we ask. So if you pull back the curtains to this, it's just questions. It's nothing deep, right? You don't have to get nervous. And so an equity lens, it's just questions. In the city of San Diego, we have 4 questions. The questions that we ask is, how does this program enhance access to city services and programs? That's equity and access. We want to promote access. The second question is, how does this policy directly benefit specific neighborhoods and our city employees? Turns out there's a benefit sometimes to our city employees and as well as specific neighborhoods. And Peter and Vicki will tell you this. Sometimes there is a benefit to our community members that may impact our employees in a different way. And so the benefit may be different. It may benefit the community, but there may be an impact to our employees. Like when you roll out a new software, for example, there may be an impact around training to your employees that there's a benefit around. The next question goes to then the operational impacts. When the administration, the mayor or council, when they make decisions, there is an operational impact. Turns out if you convert smart meters and you allow them to be digital, guess what? There's an operational impact. You then have to go out and replace all the old meters and make sure that they're operational and make sure that folks know what that means. So operational impact allows you to say, what is the operational impact to this policy? What needs to change in the way that we do business when we are implementing new policy? And the last question goes for, what are the unintentional consequences? Sometimes anyone who is in a budget cycle for a city understands that a budget cannot solve all things, all problems in 1 year. And so we need to think about what are the unintentional consequences or burdens to particular neighborhoods and city employees. When you look at the channels that flooded, what is the potential unintended consequence around having a home that is in a flooding plain if you don't have flood insurance, right? What is the unintentional consequence when we're not able to continuously pay for and secure based on regulatory things and budget things to clear the channels? So there are unintentional consequences to that in our burdens. What is the unintentional consequence when you don't make folks aware of the things that are in their drinking water, right? These are all conversations that when you're asking equity lens questions, the unintended consequence may be positioned based on where you live at or who you are. And so what bothers me may not bother the person who lives in a different neighborhood, which is why you have to answer this question. And so unintended consequence takes you out of your own experience, right? And so these are things that these 4 questions are meant to kind of have our team ask the questions and then have conversations about it to then respond to the answers and teaming conversations and coaching conversations to help us make more equitable decisions. And so these are our equity lens questions. They're built into everything that we do. They're built into our budget process. They're built into all our coaching sessions. And we ask these questions, and folks oftentimes think that, you know, when Grace and I or my team walk into the room, that we are the smartest folks in the room. I say, no, we're not. We're just really good at asking these 4 questions. I am not a regulatory water quality expert. I can go into a space though, and I can ask these 4 questions, and it will help me identify really quickly what are the outcomes that you're seeking and where are the disparities at. And so if anything, these 4 questions, they go a long way because they challenge you to think differently about the work that you're doing and who it impacts and how and what outcomes you're seeking. The next slide then connects to these questions because it shows then that this is about cultivating an equity mindset. When you cultivate an equity mindset, you are continuously, and Grace will tell you, I tell my team all the time, we fail if folks are reliant on us. We need to cultivate a mindset across our 12,000 plus employees where everybody is always not only asking the questions, but they're responsive to the responses around what's coming up when you ask the questions and how does that inform your operations and your policies. The equity mindset really gets into, you know, what are we thinking? What are we thinking about our decisions and our investments and our outcome? An equity mindset is what are we doing? Equity in action means you're actually doing something, you're changing the trajectory of it. Equity in access is also about the mindset. What are you saying to folks, right? This is about the inclusive engagement piece. A servant leader mindset is how we interact with, right? I've had the opportunity to be out like canvassing and talking to folks who are impacted in the flood area. And so how you interact with people who are in trauma is different. If I tell you to go in and watch the mayor's evacuation warning update, guess what? They don't have no TVs. The TV's on the curb, right? So these are things where people have lost everything, not only their TVs, their cars, their house, and all these things. So we got to be very careful with how we interact with people. Being a servant leader means I meet you where you're at based on your circumstance, which is why the mayor's team, including the mayor himself, we're going out there and we're talking to people in person because we understand that when you're trying to, you know, rebuild your life, it's not as easy as saying, just follow me on Facebook, right? So servant leader means you meet people where they're at based on their circumstance and you understand their trauma. And yes, people told me it don't rain in California when I moved here, and I don't understand what's happening with that. Heavy rains. I need for us. Peter, please fix that. Thank you. Or anyone on the call. I'm open to anyone else who wants to fix that. The next part, I want to leave some time for you to interact and ask me and Grace some questions. When we look at the equity mindset, we really want to be clear about equity factors. And so when I opened up and I talked about the fact that equity is never in competition with any other layer of oppression. Our team, and part of Grace preparing folks with training, is that just because we're talking about systemic racism, that does not mean we're leaving white folks out of the conversation. As a matter of fact, when I was canvassing, I met a family who, a white family who actually lived in the flooded plain area. I didn't walk past that family and say, oh, guess what, you're white, you're not gonna get it's about racism, right? And so equity work does not mean you're leaving someone out. Equity work means you're conscientious that systems interact with people differently, and you got to be aware of that nuance. And our goal is not to leave anyone out, it's to understand how you interact with folks based on the way the history has created racial disparities. So equity work, it's about understanding that racism is a salient and pervasive force that creates disparities. There is not an indicator in this country including education, employment, where you don't see pervasive racial disparities, right? And it is not the fault of people of color. It is the fault of the systems that created the circumstances historically, which is why we do our training. And so equity, they do not compete with each other. I like to say that as our mayor's slogan, when one of us thrive, all of us thrive, and it's about all of us. If we all dismantle racism, guess what? That actually also serves the white folks in our city who have levels of disparities in their space as well. And so it's never in competition. And so we got to be conscientious of how the parts of the whole coexist and fit together. And so I always like to say just that, because folks are always like, well, what about white LGBT folks? I'm like, okay, let's not get into what we call the oppression Olympics. Like this is not, we are not competing around who's the most oppressed or less oppressed, right? Any oppression is not okay for folks to experience. And then to that end, a part of our work is when you really want to dig into what we are charged with doing in our training is about understanding that if you go to the next slide, we want to foster a workforce that's not afraid to talk about racism. It is the thing that makes folks really, really anxious only because they do not understand, and some folks feel guilty. I like to tell folks we are in a social media age where you are one Facebook video from saying something that you didn't mean to say. I am nervous all the time as the chief of race and equity. I tell my team all the time, if I say something or do something, please put me to the side so I'm not on TV saying something. And so we are one word from being recorded and becoming a meme and a reel where you just said something on your bad day where you didn't know that that meant something that offended a whole particular group. So we want to move from being avoidant to talk about racism and to be avoidant to say, when we say things that we are all the same and there is no such thing as color, that means you're not accounting for the way that racism impacts people of color in this country. We don't want to avoid talking about racism. We want to lean in and to understand what it means to be a person of color in this country and to experience systemic racism. So our team is trying to stop folks to being scared of talking about the R word that folks get anxious about, which is why our team does the training. We want to approach this then with talking about structural exclusion and talking about the way in which policies impact folks within systems. We want to be clear about how equality is a universal goal, that we want everyone to have clean drinking water to the context that we're in right now. And we want to be clear about how equity shows up to the next slide is equity deconstructed shows up into different ways of equity in access is different than equity in assets. So we're getting clear about when we coach with our departments, we're saying, are you promoting access? And access may mean interpretation and translation. See how that sounds? So with our team, we're saying if you're promoting equity and access, we may be talking about interpretation and translation. Are you maybe enhancing a service in our library and our park system? Versus equity in access, it means you're literally counting the miles of channel and the level of where they're at and where they're more prone to flood versus not, and all the regulatory considerations. I'm learning a lot with our stormwater department. My heart goes out to them at this point in time. So please just know that's a thing. And so equity in assets means you're saying, what is the assets that need clear investments and more investments, right? These are your streets and your sidewalks and your mills and levee. I'll end with this with access in that every infrastructure in this country needs more investment. We've seen it with New Orleans, we've seen it with Michigan, we're seeing it occur with San Diego. And so just know that equity and assets is about being clear about what is your infrastructure saying and what neighborhood is that infrastructure not serving us well. And then you have equity in certain demographics. These are the neighborhoods that are structurally excluded. These are the neighborhoods where you were more flood to flooded areas based on historic redlining, right? Last but not least is our processes and our frameworks. And so these are the tools that we use to do the work. And so these are the things that we want to make sure that folks are able to like do the work in equity in a framework or a tool is where our team comes in and we say, hey, how do you do the work? Which then goes to equity and framework. The next slide is that each department in our city is charged with doing a tactical equity plan. The plan is comprised of these main components where we are going through and saying, you have to set goals and you have to set activities, and you have to, more importantly, be clear about where disparities show up in your technical equity plan using data. So every department is setting goals, activities, but more importantly, they're going through their plans and they're saying, is there a particular disparity in access, in infrastructure, in our demographic, or how it impacts our employee? And so these plans have taken our team about a year to work through. They're actually required by the ordinance. Lots of cities are actually creating these plans. And so just know that we're working towards doing that with all departments. I'll stop real quick to pass it over to Vicki, share some thoughts around, Vicki and our Peter, to share some thoughts around the stormwater department in particular, and then leave some time for any Q&A that you have for us.
Yeah, I just wanted to check in on timing, Kim. I know do you have to jump off at 9:45?
Yeah, I still have about 10 more minutes.
Okay, so maybe if anybody has questions, I want to make sure they can ask you any questions and I can talk about our TEP. I have a hard time saying that. If anybody has any questions they have for Kim right now, just so we don't lose her. Grace, I'm not sure if you're able to stick around. Okay, so maybe Grace can answer some questions as well. But does anybody have anything they want to ask Kim right away before I jump into my 2 slides quick? Nick does.
Hi, Kim. Thanks so much. Really inspiring. Some of your quotes already have like really hit me strongly. I had some questions about the training. Are you and your staff providing the training, or are you contracting with a specific person doing the training?
I'll pass it to Grace.
Great question, Nick. We have in-house staff that are training for our in-person experiential and hosting the online hybrid sessions. And then our asynchronous, obviously, are items that are available through SuccessFactors and LinkedIn Learning. So folks can access that at different points in time.
Cool. Did you use like the GARE, the government, the GARE framework as a basis for the training, or is this something, an independent skill set that you guys just, where did you learn to become the teachers of the information, I guess?
I love it. I think all of us trainers come from various backgrounds and experience. So for example, I started and worked at UC San Diego and did an entire 20-year career in higher education doing this work with college students. So bringing that knowledge and expertise over from the higher ed sector into city government is where I used my own experience. But yes, we were fortunate enough to be in a partnership and have strong connections to GARE. And so it's exciting to be able to kind of merge, at least for me, merge my 2 worlds to be able to bring what is already known to work in our government systems throughout the country and then implement some of the knowledge and experiential learning that I bring from higher ed.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
And Nick, that question is really important in terms of it led to a decision with the mayor's office where we have over 12,000 employees. And even to Garrett, when you're trying to, and Grace will tell you, like to create a calendar to get through 12,000 folks is going to take some time, which is why we have both in person and virtual. And so if I was to hire a consultant, it would be lots. So actually it's a, with Grace and her team, we can train however much, and Grace controls the calendar. So that was a decision to like use consultants strategically, but like it was about getting through 12,000 folks. And also to train in the context of plans. There's not a lot of advocacy around like training. So we train in the context of our model. So training not alone, but training in connection to our technical equity plans is a strategy. Because you can hire, me and Grace can train 1,000 people in 2 months, but racism will still be here. And so we train in the context of our model, which is why that model is important. Brendan, I see your hand.
Thank you. I'm going back to equity mindset. I'm wondering if the city has any measures of success for staff developing an equity mindset.
Yeah, our technical equity plan has, separate and apart from that, we partner with our performance analytics data department. And so each TEP, we go through an exercise around key performance indicators. And so given the example for stormwater, miles of channel is a data point, right? And so each objective and activity is paired with a set of key performance indicators that goes alongside of them. Brendan, that's a great question in terms of I always say this, you are not doing equity work if you can't point to clear outcomes. And so equity work entails having clear data. The existence of no data is data. And so Brendan, that's a great question around our TEPs, pair KPIs alongside them. Any other questions for us?
Okay, cool. I will go through my couple of slides then, and then Grace will stick around if you guys have more questions that we can help answer as well. But yeah, Kim, we are so lucky to have you.
I know we talk fast, and so we can come back. We can come back. We can come back.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be great. I think this group would really appreciate that. So, okay, so as Kim has already mentioned, that we have these tactical equity plans, and I'm just going to call TEPs because I really struggle with that phrase for some reason. So TEPs moving forward. So each one of our departments has been working on ours. This is a new process for us, and I haven't been super involved. It's actually really like super upper management that works on these, but I've been kind of worming my way into the process a little bit. So we're still learning about, how they're going to work for us. So it's a new process. So we worked really closely with Kim and our coach. One thing, I don't know if Kim had mentioned, but her team has, I think, 8 staff members in her office, and each person is assigned to a department. And so we have a coach that helps us with this and other equity issues. So we've been working really closely with them to put the plan together. So the foundation of our TEP is our existing strategic plan that, usually includes mission, vision, goals, and all that for our department. We have one that we look at all the time and we update it frequently. So we had a really good basis to start from when we were moving forward with our TEP. So our key priority areas and goals are these: protect clean water, ensure flood safe communities, provide clean and green streets, and that's like green infrastructure for those stormwater folks out there. Enhance our communities and protect our habitats, stormwater capture, and then education outreach priorities. So I know this is impossible for you guys to see, but I just wanted to kind of clip out so you can see what it looks like. So right now, our TEPs have started off as these like, sort of fancy spreadsheets. I know in the future they'll be a little bit more polished and eventually posted on our website, but right now, just wanted you to kind of see what it looks like. I know you can't read that, so I'm going to go through this particular example here. So I'm just going to walk through this one objective and activity example to kind of give you an idea of what they look like in the process that we went through to create it. And we have 3 divisions within our department, and there's many different goals that go with them, but I'm just going to focus on one that I'm most familiar with. That's for my division that handles pollution prevention and planning. And so this one in particular is talking about regarding eliminating illegal discharges primarily through our code enforcement process. So the goal is to provide safe, clean water. I know you can't see that, but that's right here, number 1, the goal I mentioned earlier. Our objective is to meet current and future MS4 permit requirements. And then our activity associated with that objective and goal is to investigate and eliminate all illicit discharges and do something new that we hadn't actually thought of before, which is going to feel silly now that we've been talking about it, because we do analyze our data and we look at it, but we don't really look at it spatially in terms of like a GIS analysis of the different kinds of complaints of discharges that we get all over the city. So to really look at it from a geographic area, council district, zip code, neighborhood, so we can really see like who is providing, who's submitting the complaints, how many do we have in that area, and then also look at the locations and the proximity to water bodies. So then we can look at if water quality is improving once we start moving through these new processes. I'll talk a little bit more about how we'll do that in just a second. So then our equity standard is the clean, safe water for all. And then the current disparity is that some communities or areas may have more discharges or submit more complaints. And there could be a lot of reasons for that, that once we really take a better look at it, we'll be able to maybe pinpoint what those are. It may be that certain communities don't want to turn in their neighbors. They don't trust the government. Maybe they don't know what stormwater is or even how to submit the complaint. Like maybe they don't know how to use we have an app and, an online system or phone number. Like maybe they don't know any of those things. But we don't really know yet because we haven't really looked at it. We don't know which communities are doing more than others. So we really need to take a really good look at that. And that could highlight the need for us to target outreach into certain areas and maybe equate that with water quality, the impairments in certain areas. Maybe we need to focus there, but we don't really know until we take a look at that. So then our measure of success, we are required to have our discharge charges abated in 38 to 30 days, improved water quality, and then more equitable reporting related to all of those things. And the other things we have to include is partners. So we have some other departments that we would work with on this, possibly Public Utilities, Peter's department, our city attorney's office, IT, all of those other departments that we have to take a look at to related to this particular objective and activity. And then these last two, the strategic plan priority area and strategic plan operating principle, are actually based on the citywide operating strategic plan. So the priority area in our city plan is to champion sustainability, and the operating principle would be trust and transparency. So that's the one example I have. We have many more that go with all of our different objectives, but this is, again, the one I was the most familiar with, so I was comfortable sharing this one with you guys. I don't know if, Grace, you had anything you wanted to add about like how the plans work. I'm still kind of new to them myself, so I don't know if you have anything you can add to that.
I think what's most important is that each of our departments identify some objective and how that relates to the larger strategic plan. And then within that, how are we paying attention to disparities? And like Kim said, the only way we're going to know that is to say, well, this is what we want for everyone. This is what it would look like if equality existed and everybody had this thing. And in this case, clean and safe water. And then when we start to dive in and look at who doesn't have access to that, or where are our assets, maybe there aren't enough storm drains to in certain areas, or we start to see the disparities when we start to apply the equity lens and ask those questions, like who is this not true for, or what are the unintended outcomes when we make a decision like not being able to clear storm drains. And so I think it's really important, not just for stormwater, for each of our departments to really take a look at, well, what are our goals and how does equity show up and play out in us reaching those goals? And then it allows for us to put our money where we say we want to. And if we see the disparities, we're able to request funding, or in years like this year where we have reduction, we're able to reduce in areas that will be the least impacting maybe certain neighborhoods or certain programs that are necessary to be able to bring more equity to access or assets. So it's wonderful work. It's embedded in our system, which isn't always the case in every city. So I think San Diego is ahead of the game in the sense that we've created these tactical equity plans as a means of really being more systemic in the way we're asking questions around equity.
Yeah, and just to kind of wrap it up, I know we are extremely lucky to have this Department of Race and Equity and this whole team to help us operationalize it within each department. I know not every community has that ability, and we have lots of support, obviously, from the top down, which is most important to be able to do this work. And so I just wanted to say that I know we're really lucky. And Grace and Kim, I know, thank you so much for being here today. Did anybody else have any other questions for that Grace or I can answer? All right, I guess it was just the most perfect presentation. I don't know, Peter, if you have anything you want to add. I know your department has a tactical, I can't forget it, I can't say it, TEP of your own. I don't know if you have anything you want to add about how it's working out for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's working out great for us. As many people on this call probably know, there's new regulatory requirements issued by the state of California and the federal government that are requiring us to consider a lot more equity in what we do. The lead and copper rule revisions that came out recently, where we have to start paying a lot more attention to lead in private laterals. Before we only had to look at the public side. Now we're also looking at the private side. And that really does help ensure that kind of some of these historic redlined communities where maybe house renovations haven't been happening quite as often, are have the ability at least to have their private plumbing tested for lead and then potentially replaced. And so those are kind of some of the things that the Public Utilities Department in San Diego is focusing on right now.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I totally put you on the spot. Sorry.
That's okay.
Nick?
Yeah, thanks. This might be probably for Grace. With one of the domains being both learning and development, but also data-driven practices, I'm wondering if in addition, and I've been kind of poking around the website, which is great, if there are any specific training. So after you've taken that kind of basic understanding of systemic racism and what equity means, are there then follow-on trainings that you provide to staff when they start looking at how to look at the data available to make a racial equity based analysis of their programs, and then to maybe identify and prioritize some of the work, but then also measure if those policies or the tactical plans that are being put in place are making an impact? So is there any sort of training being specific to how to, like, the pitfalls of using the data that's available, like how to look and tell the story in a way that is accessible and can be told in an effective way?
Nick, that's a great question. And we are doing some work, one with Panda as our partner, Performance and Analytics, as well as the People Lab through Harvard. So we're actually in the process of finalizing a data use agreement to be able to look at behavioral outcomes and the data that we're collecting related to our staff and their behaviors. So it'll be interesting to see what comes from that study. We haven't really talked a lot about how we're going to train around that. We have some discussions right now with Panda about doing a dashboard to be able to provide that data to the public, to other departments. So we're in the process of working that out with the folks at Panda. So to be determined, or still to come. There's a lot of work there, and obviously we want to protect the data of our employees. So there's a lot of work on the back end to ensure the anonymity and confidentiality of our staff demographics. So there's work there that still needs to be done. So more to come. But I can see where, like, you would want to be able to access and utilize the data to be able to make better decisions within your area, and we're going to get there. It is in our future offerings, but right now we're focusing on the mayor's priority, which is really to get out this training to all 12,800 employees, and then alongside that do some data-driven research. So hopefully we'll get to you with those trainings. And this is helpful that you're asking that question, because it's definitely something on our minds to be able to offer in the future. We have things called master classes that we're really looking at building out for specific topic areas. So it sounds like this one would be a great master class for us to offer. So thanks, Nick.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Grace or about the equity plans? Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Grace. You're welcome to stick around. We just have a couple more
Hi.
things for our our
Grace,
workers.
I just wanted to ask you, what did you mention was the you said Panda, what was the data you guys were using again?
Oh, okay. So we're working with Panda, and we are collecting data based off of the use of our learning and development offerings, and then looking at behavioral outcomes from that. So if you attended I mean, an example would be like, if you attended the Race and Equity Academy, are you more likely to submit ideas for your tactical equity plan to your manager or supervisor? And we want to see that, you know, because Vicki, you even mentioned it earlier in this call. Typically, those decisions get made by upper management, and not always does the information get trickled down or allowed to be moved up in the organization from the folks that are on the ground or maybe in communities where they see the disparities. So how can we encourage folks who are driving our trucks and who are cleaning out stormwater drains to also be paying attention to the disparities that they're seeing out in the field, and being able to give them an avenue to communicate that information up because they're seeing it. And so that's really where we're going to be starting to collect some data around behavioral outcomes. There's more there. That's just one example, but we'll be working together with Panda and then the folks at Harvard and the People's Lab to be able to collect that data.
Yeah, and Panda is a City of San Diego's performance and analytics department. They're part of our, just kind of, I don't know if they're part of IT or if they're their own department. I'm actually not sure.
They're their own department, but they
Okay.
are a very large department that does a lot of data driven. They run a lot of our surveys. They do a lot of our like mapping. So they really house a lot of the analytics that we work with. You know, the TEPs, they really are our partner in making sure that every department has key performance indicators and that those KPIs are measurable and public, so that people know kind of what we're striving for as we're doing each of our goal areas and objectives.
That's helpful. I was wondering if, at first when you said that, I was thinking it was like a Python. That's why I was curious.
Oh,
so that
yeah.
makes more sense now. That you shared both of those. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, a lot of integrative and collaborative work with a lot of departments through the TEP, but then also on the back end with our performance and analytics folks. So we also work with the Department of Finance specifically around budget and budget equity and ensuring that folks are submitting their budget equity impact statements along with their budget requests or reductions. So a lot of this is really embedded in our system so that we have this equity mindset as we're making budget decisions, as we're making, you know, goals and decisions about where work will go. So looking at those equity factors, we're really trying to make sure people have access to assets in the neighborhoods that might have experienced structural disparity. And we do that through that TEP process and our policy making, all the work that happens in all the different departments throughout the city. So it is not a small feat to dismantle systemic racism. So we're trying to do it in all of these avenues and ways.
Well, thank you guys for letting me sit on. I follow you guys quite a bit on the listserv, and this was one that I just wanted to sit in on. So
that's
thank you guys very
awesome.
much.
Yeah,
I think it's great that we can all, you can be in faraway places and still learn a lot from different organizations. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for checking out our website. We just updated that not even a month ago. So glad to know that that's helpful. We'll continue to add more resources there as we get them developed. Our comms team is working diligently to create our PDFs and things that are going to go and fill up the website with some tools that will be helpful to you all. So just more to come. We're a new office and we're trying to get a lot done in a quick amount of time. And so I appreciate you all's support and looking to us to be able to provide you with some resources. So
yeah, you guys are doing an incredible job. I mean, Kim's been here for what, like 4 years now?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, two years and some change, and I've been around for 7 months now, almost 8. So yeah, we have a small but mighty and new team, and we're working hard to really get things up and running for you all. So more to come, and I think Kim and I are welcome to, we're happy to come back and support and provide more information as needed. And as Stormwater's Equity Center coach, you all have access to me. So feel free whenever you need me to just reach out here for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I know both you and Kim have noted, I know everybody's from kind of all over the state here. So I'm sure you all have heard, we've had a lot of flooding and issues down here in the last few weeks, and it really has brought the equity issues in stormwater and our infrastructure up to the forefront recently. So it's unfortunate that it's brought that, but I think it's going to help us quite a bit. And I wish my example was more infrastructure related, but that's not my side of the house, so I don't know as much about it. So I didn't use one of those examples, but just in case anybody had questions about that too. So awesome.
Well, thanks
Thank
for
you
having
so
us,
much.
Vicki.
Oh, I will definitely be reaching out, and I'm sure we'd love to have you back sometime.
For sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so just a couple of other items for the rest of the meeting. So I shouldn't say Brian Santos is stepping down. He has stepped down at this point. So if anyone would like to be co-chair, please let me know, me or Nick. Or if anybody who's interested, let me know. Otherwise, I guess I'm just chair instead of co-chair. But I'd love to have some help if anybody else is interested. I have one of my staff members, Cassie, is on the line. She's been a real big help to me. She's kind of unofficial co-chair, helping me get a lot of the work done. But just wanted to get that out there again. If anybody's interested, we have been doing quarterly meetings, so there is a bit of commitment, but it's not like you have to do 10 hours of work every week or anything. But if anybody's interested, please reach out to me or Nick. We'll send out another email call about it too, I think, if there's anybody that might be interested. So that's that. And then just a couple of other quick announcements. We are working on the new webpage updates. The state board has updated their webpage format. It's looking really nice and crisp and clean. And thanks to Kathy helping me and Brian's work that he did before. We're working with Nick on presenting providing the updates for our part of the equity webpage. If anybody has any thoughts or anything that they want to add to it, it's pretty much just going to be reformatting everything into the new format. I don't know if we're adding too much more information, but it's just going to look a lot nicer and a little bit easier. You guys have probably seen that there is a resources page there. So if there's anything that you come across that you would like to add to it, let us know and we can get that to Nick to get added to it. There's a whole plethora of information, and I'll actually probably reach out to Grace and see if there's more information that they can provide, that maybe we can add some of those kinds of training things that they have available. We'll see what we can do there. And then I know we always like to bring this up too, for future meetings, if there's any ideas or topics anybody has that they want to bring up, please let me know either now or later at any time. Like I said, we do these quarterly meetings, so the next meeting is in May, so we have some time to set something up. But if there's any particular topic that would be, just let me know. I know in the past there's been some folks that wanted to get some information about how to get their management to allow them to do more of this kind of work. And that was actually Peter's idea to have Kim present today to talk to folks about that and see how we're doing it here in the city of San Diego. But if there's any other topics you guys want to talk about or want to hear about, anything anybody can think of off the top of their head, let me know right now, or we can talk about it later as well. Cool. Don't worry, I won't call on anybody. All right, and then we also like to do our open floor. Does anybody have any topics they want to talk about or anything going on? This is your chance. I know that there's a lot going on out there down here. We have a lot of issues with our flooding and some disparities that have come up along those lines. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about going on in their community, or questions or ideas? Now's your chance.
Hi, Vicki. I just wanted to maybe mention that the logo, and if anyone has any graphic design. Should I mention that?
Yeah, no, please do. Thank you. Appreciate that. So I know if you guys have seen on the website, we have a sort of a little bit of an older don't know if it's a logo, but it's sort of a little design, and it has the old name of the group, the Jedi. So we wanted to update that and maybe have a little bit of a fresher look. So does anybody have any experience with it? I'm definitely not that person, not very artistic, but if anybody or if you guys have any resources that you have available for some, it doesn't even have to be super fancy graphic design, but just help us update our little logo, that would be awesome. Thanks, Cassie, for the reminder.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, if anybody knows anyone or has any resources or knows how to use Photoshop, because I certainly don't, I would really appreciate the help to come up with something new, or have any ideas. We can come up with a couple of different ideas and put it to vote, see what you guys think. I think that would be really awesome. So we can refresh that along with our new website. All right, cool. Well, next meeting is May 1st at 9. And as you can see, they don't usually go 2 hours. Usually we'd like to have it held for 2 hours just in case, but be 9 to 11-ish. And if you have any ideas or thoughts, like I said, please let me know. We'll hopefully have another awesome speaker for next time. And I guess that's all. Unless Peter or Nick has anything they want to say.
I just put in a few things in the chat.
Oh, I didn't see.
And if you want, I mean, I could show you quickly what the beta pages look like, or
Oh yeah, that would be
not.
great. Sorry, I couldn't see that. So
That's okay.
let me stop sharing. There we go. You know, I'm like, I would keep saying this. I need to take a little Zoom tutorial or something to learn.
I sent you a link on how to do your PowerPoint. So so this makes it, unfortunately I can't share this broadly just because it's behind our firewall, but this is like those templates are kind of hard to visualize, but when you fill it out, it's just what it ends up looking like.
Ooh,
This is
cool.
the homepage. It looks a lot more modern than this is what the existing pages look like. And for those of you that were you're talking about the existing logo is here. So worst case scenario, there's a graphics department at the state board, but they're just usually super backlogged, so it's not super quick. So if there are like people with kids that have some sort of graphic design
I know, right?
stuff, that's worked in the past, or if have something that's public domain even. Let's see some of the work groups. So they all look basically the same. They have unique these same 4 tabs, at least 4. Sometimes they have a 5 if they have a related program, like this one has a statewide swamp program that's associated with it. But most of them have this home about us meeting space, and then they have buttons that kind of just take you down the page. Just go. This is a nicer feel. There's meetings pages that make it a little bit easier to find when the next meetings are and post how to sign up for them. This particular work group has you register on Zoom because it's harder for us to send out meeting invites now with our current system. There's a whole area for resources, whether they be data related or they used to have a literature spot where you can kind of search for things by topic. That's kind of more advanced, but there's also, they have a data portal, but that might not be working right now, but there's just this is what it looks like. So when you kind of, the template kind of just shows these kind of areas where it has, the what we do, the announcements, and it's basically working off what these 4 navigation systems are, and you're just trying to populate each one of those pages. And so it does look nice. It's a lot better feel for people. So I'm
so excited.
Yeah. So and there's easier places to sign up and unsubscribe or all sorts of stuff. So it's coming along, and shouldn't be, hopefully for this group, shouldn't be too much work, but it is looking pretty cool compared to the last one.
Yeah, no, I love it. This is going to be so great. I like your suggestion, Mariel. We can steal the equity office thumbprint. Maybe. I'll see if we can. Or something similar. It's a great idea. Yeah, if somebody has a teenager or something that knows how to do graphics, that'd be awesome. It's definitely not me. Cassie and I maybe can talk about it, see if we can find somebody around the office that could. But Yes, thank you everybody so much. And thanks for that, Nick. Sorry, I couldn't see your chat when I had
No worries.
too many different things, but you're right. I am gonna go take a tutorial because I don't want to that again.
No worries.
We use Teams here, so like I'm a Teams champ. I can do anything on Teams, but so
Yeah. Well,
Zoom
thanks so
is
much
just
for getting
happening.
Kim and Grace. They were great. I
Yeah,
learned
thank you. And thank you,
myself.
Peter, for the suggestion. Great idea. I know we are absolutely just so lucky to have them and have that ability here at the city to work through with these plans. It's just it's awesome. I'm really excited about it. So we'll definitely have them back maybe next year to talk about how things have been going and how it's getting implemented and how we once we get it up on the website, I'll share that with you guys too. So awesome. Well, thank you everybody. Really appreciate you coming, and thanks again, Grace. That was so awesome. And say hi to your little puppy too. I saw your little guy. I was a little jealous. I'm at home or not at home, so I don't have to
And thank you, Vicky, for running a great meeting
Yep.
today.
Thank you,
Oh,
Vicky.
yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. And don't forget, tell all your friends, we need a co-chair.
Yeah, I'll keep promoting it too. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.